What's up? You got your boy Dyreck, aka Native Shades, reminding you to like and subscribe. Cause today we're gonna be talking about the Numark orbit. What had happened was... So the year is 2013, and Numark, under the umbrella of In Music, the same company that Akai is under the umbrella of, Numark decided to make a play for the ages. You see, Numark always considered themselves as trendsetters in the DJ production space. So in 2013, they wanted everybody in the space to know that Numark had next. Now you gotta remember, just a couple years earlier, everybody, and I mean everybody, got tired of hardware. And because of this, MIDI controllers were running the game. Akai, just a year earlier, began putting out their fleet of MIDI controllers, here to take over the world. Roland and Korg was not far behind. People got tired of big hardware rack samplers. They were done with that. Matter of fact, you would find some of them out in the back in the dumpsters. People were sick and tired of hardware, but they still wanted that hardware feel. And that's where Numark comes into play. Now, Numark has always been known as a solid DJ company. They had products like the Mixtrack Pro 2, which allowed you basically full control over Serato DJ and Serato DJ Intro. And at this time, Serato DJ was the standard new DJ software for new DJ producers who wanted to get into the DJ space. Numark also came out with the iDJ Pro, which basically turned your iPad into a virtual mixer. Basically, you had your two turntables where you can flip any song from your iTunes library any way you wanted, so you could rock a party with any DJ controller you had with this joint. Numark showed no hesitation. The line of production from Numark was moving fast. It's kind of like when you're in the convenience store and you know there's a line and you're kind of in a rush, and you got just two people ahead of you. You got the skateboard girl and the old guy. The skateboard girl, she finishes buying her things. She's out with the quickness to a point you don't know what they think this is. You know what I'm saying? And now all you gotta deal with is the old guy. And all he's doing is buying a hat. So you're like, oh, okay, great. He gets to the cashier, asks the cashier the price. The cashier is like $5. And all of a sudden, this old guy goes into his shirt pocket and then his pants pocket and starts pulling out mad coins. And then he goes, shopkeep, I have 500 pennies. Clink, 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 and drops about 500 pennies on the counter. Pennies falling all over the place. The shopkeeper's like, oh my gosh, and starts picking up some of the pennies and like, yo, what's going on? And the shopkeep had to stay there for about 15 minutes counting 500 pennies to make sure this guy was on point. Oh man, but that's how important speed was to Numark at this time. But in 2013, Numark finally felt they put all the pieces together. They finally felt they put it together and created the perfect controller that was missing in the DJ production space. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the Numark Orbit. You're getting the world's first wireless DJ handheld controller with the built-in motion control. You're getting an accelerometer built into this joint, allowing you to control whatever MIDI control device you have simply by moving the controller around. Amazing! The controller can communicate to your device via 2.4 gigahertz wireless connectivity. You're getting 4 banks of 16 multicolored RGB pads, giving you a total of 64 pads for your music making desires. You're getting an exclusive MIDI software editor, allowing you to change all the values on the Orbit and even the colors. You're getting 2 types of USB dongles with this joint, allowing you to charge the Orbit's built-in rechargeable battery for hours of production enjoyment and entertainment with the Orbit. You're getting a left and right shoulder button, just like you were playing on your Sega Genesis controller. But the difference is, when pressed down, these controller buttons control the X or Y axis in the built-in motion accelerometer. So whenever a pad is assigned, you can control the motion and movement of the pad with ease. And boys and girls, in the center of the Orbit is a giant illuminated wheel, allowing you to control volume, crossfading, effects, and even scratching. You can map it basically to whatever you want. Ladies and gentlemen, when Numark released the Numark Orbit in 2013, crickets. Just crickets. Nobody cared about this joint. Nobody even knew what this thing was or why it even ever existed in life. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Why on earth would anyone want to control their DJ equipment with a video game controller? Was Numark out to lunch? When you think of DJs, you want to look like Grandmaster Flash or Kid Capri on the 1s and 2s. You don't want to look like Daigo from Street Fighter using a controller to get busy. Come on, in music. So Numark had a hard time selling this controller. It was like selling ice to Eskimos. Nobody wanted it. And you should see at the expos, they were pushing it hard. I mean, the salesman was doing everything humanly possible to try to sell these things. He was dancing, doing the Millie Rock, just all kind of moves on the dance floor. He even moonwalked on them. They still did not want the Orbit. You see, the problem was, in my opinion, you just look crazy with this controller on stage. You look like a madman. The thing about games like the MTV Music Generator or Dreams for PlayStation was that with the controller, you also had a designated software that you were actually playing the game on. So when you're using the controller, you're actually building blocks and doing things. You're actually playing the actual game on the software, which is how you're creating your music. You're building it from scratch that way. So it actually feels enjoyable like a game. But this was something else. Now, to be fair, in music and Numark are trendsetters. They're daredevils, daring to go places no man or woman has ever gone before. Numark has always been a company that has always tried to innovate and push their music technology all over the globe. Numark has always took pride in educating the consumer. The workflow of the Orbit is pretty simple. You got the 4 bottom buttons on the controller, and they're basically 4 different banks for the 16 pads on the controller. So it gives you 64 pads. The top 4 buttons on the controller are different sections that you can assign different MIDI parameters to. And those parameters are controlled by the jog wheel in the center. So the first top button, when assigned, can control the volume. And when assigned, you can press the second top button and that can control the scratching, and so on and so on. The Orbit has 2 shoulder pads, and when pressed down, control the X and Y axis of any of the 16 buttons you're holding down on the controller. So let's say if you assign the filter to one of the buttons, hold that button down along with the top shoulder buttons and start moving the controller, and you'll have your filter going all types of crazy stuff. It's pretty ill. Now, when the Orbit was released, it was only $100. Can you believe it? A C-note. That was it. And you had the first ever wireless DJ hand MIDI controller. But the Orbit just didn't hit with the DJ community. You know, if somebody brought this over to old school DJ guys, they would say, what are you doing with this thing? What are you trying to do? Play Simon Says? Where are your 2 turntables? They just would not give the Orbit any respect. Some folks felt if it had some inputs and maybe an EQ, that might have changed things. Some folks said if it had a headphone jack, maybe you could use the Orbit in listening to your headphones while EQing your sound. Maybe that would trigger inspiration. Now, to be fair, the Orbit did come with an interactive software called the Orbit DJ. It was kind of like a Serato sample kind of setup, and it did make manipulating your music with the Orbit pretty cool. But just the application of using a video game controller to control your DJ device just threw some folks off. But even so, folks, real musicians can make anything poppin'. That's the magic of being a real musician. A Japanese rock group, Melt Bananas, has been using the Orbit for years. Since it came out to even as far as last year, they were on stage rocking the crowd with the Orbit. And in 2013, the Numark Orbit actually won the DJ Magazine Tech Award for the new innovative DJ products of the year. So yeah, folks, that's the Numark Orbit. What had happened was... So this is your boy Dyreck, aka Native Shades, reminding you to like and subscribe. And I'm signing off.